Jennifer.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. And how's our little boy doing?
He's good, ready to go.
Well, Eric, I'm sure you don't like to be called a little boy, but you're always going to be my little boy.
He knows. He's like, I
Yeah.
know. What are you going to do?
Well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All right. You guys, I want to remind you guys, I get so many people saying, oh, can you interview Lady Di? Can you interview Prince? Can you interview, or can you talk about this subject or that subject? But they're in the archives. And there were many years that I just did text only from audio. It's only relatively recently that I started doing sessions via YouTube. So I urge you to go to channelingerik.com and go to the archives. Start from the beginning and just slowly make your way through. Okay, so I also want to let you guys know that you can contact this wonderful medium, Jennifer Doran, at Psychic Medium Jennifer Doran, DORAN.com. All right, we are going to talk about, oh God, I already forgot. Oh yeah, crossing over and heaven. We've covered this before, but I don't know if we've done it in depth. So I have mostly questions from blog members, to tell you the truth. Here's one. Ready, Erik? Ready, Jennifer?
Yes.
All right. Hello, Erik. I had a question on well, you know what? Why don't you just start talking about what crossing over is like, and then we'll get to the questions, actually.
Okay, so what he's saying is that it's actually different depending on the actual event that causes the passing. So when you actually cross over, sometimes you are confused. He said sometimes you don't quite know what's going on, what happened. And it's like you need to be debriefed, kind of. Other times, you know exactly what's happening, that you're going, you know, already the people who are there meeting you. He says sometimes loved ones from the other side will actually come and get you and bring you. And he says that's a lot of times for the people who really, really struggle with death. And they just really try not to go, so hard not to go. He said sometimes then they'll come and get you and bring you. But the actual crossing, whether you're, you know, ready or know it's coming or not, he said it's not painful and it's not scary. It's more confusing.
Right, right. All right, so anyway, that reminds me of when I was 5 years old and I had to get my tetanus shot or something. I was in my parents' clinic, and the nurse, who actually became my nurse when I was a doctor, had to chase me around the waiting room. And I remember holding on to the ledge at the reception desk, and she was pulling me by my feet. No. So it kind of reminds me of that. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So how do you know if you're going to be the one that's confused, or if you're going to be the one who's like,
He says you don't know. You don't know here. He, you know, having faith and having hope and a belief does help. He says it's a lot of times the people who don't have any belief that really, really struggle with this, or people who are afraid because of how they maybe live their lives, and not even their whole life, just maybe some decisions that they made that they feel guilty about. And he says that's usually when there's more of a struggle with the passing.
Yeah, Erik, I remember you told me you sort of like tried to hide under the radar when you first got there. Don't let God see me. Oh my God.
Yeah, he said that did not work. That did not work.
No, it does not. Okay, so my father, you know, he was a very militant atheist. People like that, they must like wake up into darkness, right? And it's like, then all of a sudden, what do? They find themselves thinking, oh, I wonder if I fed the dog or whatever. And then wait a minute, I'm thinking, how can they be dead? What happens?
Yeah, so he's actually, what Erik is showing me is that sometimes for people like that, because it's like if it's all at once, it would be very overwhelming. So they are like in stages introduced to, like, hey, you're not just gone now.
Yeah.
You know.
So what do they ask for help, and all of a sudden then spirits show up to help, or?
No, because it's funny what he's like. We don't even have to ask for help, because like it's like I do see like darkness, but there's souls right there ready when we are. So he says there's confusion, but never any fear. Just like kind of confusion, and then stuff starts happening.
Disoriented, I guess, huh?
Yes.
But why don't they just help anyway? Why do they have to wait until you're ready?
Well, he's kind of saying to not shock them, to not shock them, because some of us go and all of our loved ones are there, and we're like, yes, here I am. He said for the people who fight it or are confused, it would be overwhelming because it is so intense. He said it's
Yeah.
so intense when you get here.
Yeah, you don't want grandma to get right close, this close to your face and go boom like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I mean, who cares if you're shocked? I mean, we're eternal beings. Why is that so bad? It would only be temporary.
It would only be temporary, but he says it's just kind of done differently for different people. We're all different.
Oh, yeah, that's
um
true.
so it's kind of done more to what you will adjust to the best.
So they know it's
Yes.
tailor-made.
Yes, it is.
Crossing
Yes.
over, tailor-made for you.
Perfect. Yes.
All right, so what if you have a belief like you've got to fight demons in order to get into heaven, or I don't know very much about different religions, but they're all different. Like, oh, I'm going to get those 72 virgins or whatever. What is does that influence the crossing? You're crossing over,
No,
or
no,
your
because,
heaven?
well, yes and no. He says yes and no, because you won't actually, if you have these beliefs, you may not actually have to do those things. You may not actually, have to be shown that you're fighting demons to cross over. You just kind of cross over.
Okay.
Like you get from here to there, and sometimes you don't even realize that you've made the journey. He said sometimes you don't even realize, like sometimes it happens so fast that you're here, and then it's like, oh, where am I?
Mm,
So the actual crossing can be such a blur, or so instantaneous,
mm.
that you just don't realize it till you're already there. But yeah, your perceptions of what heaven is going to be like will affect how it looks when you get there.
Like, what if you believe in hell and you think you deserve to be there?
He says no.
I know there's no hell, but can you
Yeah,
kind of
no, he says
imagine
no,
it
but
hell?
no, he says you wouldn't, because that would be fear based. That
Mm.
would be fear based. And even if you're like laying there in this kind of darkness, he says you still feel all that love.
Oh, good.
You
Yeah.
still feel all that love. And it's almost like it's interesting, because it's almost like he's saying for those people who are sort of in that darkness, it's like they're in a sleep.
Mm.
And as they start to wake up, when you're waking up, it's like your eyes have to adjust. It's like he says it's like that when they're ready to
Uh,
be introduced to, hey, there is something else.
but I bet if you're a murderer, you must be a little confused. Like, wait a minute, where's the fire and brimstone? It must be a little disoriented. You might think that you should be in hell, huh?
Well, yeah, and he says even if they do, it's very, very brief, because we've all
Oh, okay.
been there before.
Yeah.
So it's like he says, once you realize, oh yeah, right, this is this is where I was going to end up.
Ah.
It's pretty quick.
Okay. Good. Uh, all right. I had a really good question. What was it? Well, can you have a painful death sometimes? I mean, what if you want to experience a painful death?
Yeah, the pain would happen here while you were still in the physical
Oh,
body.
okay, gotcha.
But if
Oh,
he
I
says,
know I know what I want to. Go ahead. Yeah, but
yeah, as soon as you leave the physical body, the pain
okay.
will stop.
All right, good. That's good. What about this white light? What's that all about? And does everybody experience that?
Um, yeah, so he says sometimes you don't experience it till you're already there. Sometimes you experience it on the journey. If you're not fighting the crossing, it's just really the white light of the Holy Spirit. It's heaven.
Oh,
It's the other side.
oh. What is it, like a tube, a portal?
Yeah, yeah, it is like, because even he said when you're over there, it's like that white light is kind of all around.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost as if you're not focused directly on something, it's like white light.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
apparently it doesn't hurt your eyes, but it's super bright.
No,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Does it? Do some people not experience that white light thing?
In the actual crossing, he said yes, some people, because it's so quick that they're here and they're there, so
I
they might
gotcha.
not see it, but when they get to the other side, they would see the white light, but not necessarily that tunnel that like, go into the light experience. Not everybody does that.
All right. What about a traumatic or really violent death, like a car accident or a murder, or in your case, Erik, your death? What is that like, the crossing over?
Yeah, he says a lot of times that really has that feeling of you're here on Earth and then you're boom there,
Mm,
with really
okay.
not a whole lot in between. Just you're here, you blink your eyes, you open your eyes, and you're on the other side.
Do you get additional help? Because, I mean,
Yeah,
your
because
energy
yes,
must be just torn to bits and
y-
things, right?
yes, yeah. So it's not. It's funny how he says it. He says it's not like extra help because everybody gets as much as they need, but it is different. It's a different type of help, in the sense that, uh, okay, that often he said there's more confusion there.
Mm.
There's more confusion, and he's kind of making a joke because he said a lot of times what happens is then you see somebody that has already died, and you're like, oh, wait a second, like what? And you start to put
Mm.
it together that you're not. But he says even in the confusion, there's no physical pain.
Okay, that's good. Is there ever fear, like despair and just horror?
No,
No. Oh, that's good.
no, because he says, once you leave there, all that stays there. All that stays
Okay.
there in the physical world.
Thank God. I'm glad to hear that about you, Erik. Okay, so what about other living creatures and their crossing over? What about like insects? I know you said in your book that they go through this beautiful portal and they look like it looks like fireworks, sparklers, and all the spirits will sit there and watch because it's just a beautiful display. All those mosquitoes that we slapped.
Yes. Yeah, for them to arrive. Yeah. And he says with insects and animals, it's like more of a, it kind of happens the same way for all of them.
Oh,
They
really?
all, yeah, it's like they all kind of experience the same crossing over, and through the light, through the portal, into the other side. He says for animals and stuff, there's no confusion. There's no confusion for them.
Why?
Um, because of the type of souls that they have, he says, because of the type of souls that they have, um, they don't have to experience. They're not on the same path as us. They're not on the same learning and
Ah,
growth path as we are.
okay.
So he says that's why they just cross over.
Okay, and they probably don't have that mind that analyzes things like
Correct.
so.
Yes.
So, in what way is there, beside the lack of confusion, in what way are insects, birds, other animals uh, different in the way they cross over from humans? They're the same as each other, but how are they different from ours, except for the
Um,
confusion
yeah.
or the
Well,
lack
just
thereof?
just because. Well, that is interesting. He says kind of like this is seems trivial, but um, he says we kind of go this way when we cross, and they go right up, like boom, straight up, and we kind of.
Oh,
I don't know why that's important,
yeah.
but
Why is that important? Is it because we take the scenic route? Is that what?
um, he says it's just a different. It's like a different pathway. It's
Oh,
just a different type of crossing. And the animals, they just go. The animals, the insects, they just boom, go right up, right straight up, and it's like for them, it's as if not much is different. It's
oh,
not like they're here or
oh.
they're there. It's not a whole lot different for them. And he says it is because that they're just different beings. They're different beings,
Okay.
different
All right.
souls.
What about aliens? Do they do the same thing as, I mean, other beings, we're aliens too, I guess, but beings from other planets, do they have a similar crossing over as we do?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
What about plants?
It's He says it's like totally different. It's like it's just totally different.
Because I
Um,
was out there weeding, oh my God, just a while ago. Oh,
yeah, it's like
sorry,
you
plant,
know
sorry. You need to find another place. Oh, anyway.
it's like the plants are. It's funny. More the plants that are here are more about like the earth, and they just kind of keep that energy kind of stays here.
Oh,
and gets reborn here. Not, but he says there's plants over there too,
yeah.
but they don't have the same. They're not looking for the same kind of knowledge
Oh.
um, that we are.
Okay, so are the plants in heaven ones that spirits just manifest? Or
Yeah, yeah. It's
is
because like
that the ones that die?
right. Yeah, he's like, because we like them and we think they're pretty, and so we want them around.
Wow. Okay, do the insects, birds, and other animals, do they reincarnate right away, or do they hang out?
No, they hang out over there, and they do come back. They come back, like he says, on a different schedule than what we do. Um, so like quicker than we do.
Okay.
Um, some, and they just kind of, when it's time, he's like, for us it's like a big long process of like planning the next life and getting
Yeah.
all the intricacies, but the animals just like, it's like when it's time, they just come back down,
But it's
you
not as
know.
fast as like a boomerang.
No,
Okay.
no,
All right. Because they don't have the same agenda of
no,
spiritual growth. None of them.
correct.
Wow. Interesting. They're probably just components also in our spiritual growth. All right. Let's talk about our little, our animal companions, our pets.
Yes.
Um, where do they go?
Okay, so they cross over, and they can come back, so you can have the same pet more than once in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
um, and really, it's like he says, animals are gifts. Animals are gifts.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it's hard to be there, and animals make it better.
Yes, they
um,
do. So, do they have a different kind of heaven?
no, they're kind of around, like, in
All
and
right.
amongst us. Yeah.
All right. What about the insects and birds and other animals? Are they in a different kind of heaven? Or are they in this, like,
He's
okay, here's where the insects go and hang out?
No, he says we're kind of all around, but he did just say our reality is their reality,
Oh, all
um,
right.
over there. So we have more control over
Yeah.
what it looks like, and so, like, our animals are over there. They'd be waiting for us. We would be reunited with them when we got over there. And but he's animals are gifts. Animals are gifts. They make it easier. Even he said, even wild animals. It's
Oh,
not just He's
yeah.
not just talking about your pets,
Yes.
and the animals that we love. It's the animals that you don't meet, that are just, wild animals. He said they're all gifts.
Yeah. What about extinct animals like dinosaurs? Are they over there too?
Yeah, and so, yeah, they're he said they're just yeah, they're just gone. They're not they were done. They were done there, and it was time for them to be, um, not on Earth anymore.
But they are in heaven, lumbering around.
Yes. Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
he said they're
cool.
here. They're here.
All right. They can't hurt you. So that's
No.
good. All right, let's go through some of these questions. Let's see. Hello, Eric. I had a question on what the process of going home is like for people with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. Do they regain their memories right after crossing over, or is it gradual?
Okay, so he says, just like physical pain, physical ailments that hurt, and he says it's the same with the ailments of the mind. You do leave those behind. He said there, maybe a bit more of the confusion, but not like the Alzheimer's and the dementia. No, he says that stays with the body.
Good. Well, it seems like when my mother was gone, pretty much, I felt like she was like going back and forth from heaven. Like,
Yes,
that
yes,
part of
and
her was in heaven already.
yeah, he says that's actually very common. Okay, so he says with people with Alzheimer's and dementia,
Mm,
especially, he says, close to the end for them,
right?
that veil that we have that makes us realize, hey, we can't go back and forth. He says that's gone, that thins. So they don't have that cognitive part of their brain telling them, no, you belong here. So they do go back and forth more. It's why oftentimes Alzheimer's people will talk, and dementia people will talk about loved ones that they just saw, that people know have already passed, because
Okay.
they are going back and forth.
Okay. let's say this is another one from somebody. Let's say I die in my sleep. So basically, I detach from my body and I see myself lying on the bed. I felt scared to just think if there would be anyone around me to hold me. I mean, my loved ones won't be there by my bed, let's say, that night. So he's afraid that he'll die and nobody will be there to hold and comfort him.
Yeah. So what Erik is showing me, like he said, when you die like that, you just float off, and he says you're just surrounded by love. You know you're not alone. Even if you can't immediately see people, he says you'll know you're not alone, and you'll be reunited with your loved ones who are on the other side.
Okay, that's good. Now, when people have an NDE and crossover, what is the reason? Oh, they don't cross over, do they? Do people have near-death experience? They don't actually cross over.
No, he said they do. They do come here, especially if they
Oh.
actually, sometimes the near-death experience, he says sometimes it lasts for quite a while.
Mm.
So if you cross and your heart stops and you stop breathing for minutes, he said, yeah, you do come here. It's why he said it's
Mm.
why so many people have been able to describe heaven and
Oh,
the,
that's right. Yeah.
because they have come here. And he said oftentimes those people don't want to come back.
I
They
know.
don't want to leave. So yeah, yes, you can absolutely cross over to the other side in a near-death experience. And he said sometimes people have had near-death experiences and they say, no, it's just nothingness. It's just black, it's just nothing. Well, it's because they didn't get all the way there. They,
Oh,
they
okay.
were, yeah, they were in that like confused. So it's kind of like, you haven't quite made it all the way over there yet, and then you come back.
Okay. Well, why do some people remember the experience and some don't?
Oh, okay. Because he said it's been written into their chart, so that they can come back to the rest of us, and
Ah,
yes, and it gives us hope.
okay. So some remember it so they can relay
Yeah.
that and give people hope. Okay,
And he
good.
said there's a lot more people who remember it than actually speak up about it.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
How long, I know there's no time, but how long does it take for a soul / spirit to cross over? And when they cross over, how long after that are those left behind able to contact them?
Okay, so that is a tricky question, he said, because
Mm.
and actually first he's going to address the people who are left behind, how long it takes them to recognize the energy of their loved ones. He said that it just depends, because the grieving process and intense grief will cloud your ability to sense the energy of your loved one who's crossed. So he said that can
Somebody get it. Yeah, I mean, I
so
can imagine. Yeah, because that energy is so deep, and so is expectation.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and as far as like the actual crossing over, that is subject to that individual soul's um experience as well, because it can take longer for others to go. And there are certain spirits who kind of hang around here for a while and don't go into the light. So he says it's not like a one size fits all.
Okay. How is it determined who will greet us when we pass?
He said that's all planned out before we even come into the life. It's already planned out. We've already planned it out who will be there.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he says it's very intricate. It's very
Oh,
intricate.
sounds like it. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we answered that about violent deaths. Um, After you cross over, can you as a spirit visit historical events, like go to the past? Like, could the spirit look in and observe a time when Jesus was alive?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, he says absolutely.
When we cross over, are we immediately happy to be there in heaven, or can we feel like we don't want to leave our families on earth? Is there ever that we grieve leaving those behind?
Okay, so Yes, he says yes, there is, but it's so, he said there's just so much love. The feeling is so intense of love that there's always that part that's like, no, I want to stay here. And he says more often it's that you have to go back. It's like, no, no, you have to, you have to go back. And not that you're upset that you have to come back, but he said that sometimes it does create a sadness, even though you're coming back to your family and your loved ones
Are you
here.
talking about near death experiences? Or are you talking
Yes.
about just death? Oh, okay. But I'm talking about just if you,
Oh,
yeah, if you just cross over,
actual.
do you mourn like Eric? Did you have grief of leaving your family behind? And
Well, no, he says no, because I can still see you guys. I can still
yeah,
see everything. Now he said that doesn't mean that I don't have to work on, the sadness and the pain that I caused. I still have to work on that. And I'm like, if karma, if you want to call it that, he said. Um, but no, because they can see us, so they don't feel as though they've lost us and left us behind. It's us who feel left behind,
now, how do you
or
work
that
on
we
that?
missed the person.
Yeah, how are you working on that? The sadness you left behind.
um well, he says by doing this kind of stuff, by doing
Oh,
this.
okay, all
But
right,
yeah, he said this is how I work on the ripple effect that I left.
okay, all right.
He said,
What,
I'm sorry, he said it's one of the ways.
one of the ways, yes, and visiting and pranking, which I
Yes.
could use a little bit more of.
Yes.
When making your contract before coming into this life, can you die before your contract is fulfilled?
Yeah.
Of course, free will.
Yeah.
I mean, you have
Yeah.
exit points, but you could die anytime you want.
Yes.
Now, why and how could that happen if you have a contract? Well,
Suicide.
yeah, it's free will, you know? Yeah,
Free
suicide
will.
is a big one. Yeah,
Yes, it is.
yeah,
It is. And actually, um so he's saying really that that's the only way you go before. Otherwise, you go at one of your exit points because what you came to do was done.
yeah,
So
yeah.
free will, the leaving by free will is the only way to do it.
Well, suppose somebody is considering suicide. How does he know if it's a true exit point, like it was in supposedly in the case of Eric, or whether it's going to be a big mistake, like a permanent solution to a temporary problem?
He says you can't know
Mm,
beforehand.
yeah.
You
What
can't.
about being regressed to between lives, like Michael Newton did? Can you find out if it was in your contract?
uh, he says you can, but you have to be careful with that,
Mm.
because especially if you're that our human mind, especially if you're really considering it. He said you can go back into a regression and put things in there
Oh, yeah.
that really maybe fit more to your
Desire. Yeah.
plan
Mm.
than your human plan, your free will plan, than actually what's written for you.
Oh,
So he
okay.
cautions about that.
All right. We're written for you. We we write our own contracts, right? I mean, obviously we get help.
Yes, yeah,
Is
yes, we
there
do.
a planning board, or how does that work? When you okay?
Yes,
Let's. Oh, really? Tell me about it. How does that work?
yes, he said there is, there is, and it's like we have guides here. He said we have guides there, and it's funny because what he's saying is like when we're over there, we know that we're going to be back over there, and we know we're coming here to learn and grow, and so we try to do that as quick as we can.
Hmm.
And so we have to go before our board and our consultants. And if we piled on too much, they will try to talk us out of it. He said, but we still have free will over here.
Yeah.
So if we say no, 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 I absolutely want to do this, they say okay, go ahead.
Good luck. Okay.
Exactly, exactly. So yes, it's not on our own that we do this. And he says it's so intricate because then there's other souls who need experiences, and we have to agree to do that for these other souls. And
Oh,
it's a big process.
what about walk-ins? You know, you get fed up. You're like, I'm out of here, and some other soul volunteers to take over the body. Can you talk about that, Eric?
Yeah, well, what he says is they have all the knowledge. When they agree to do that, they've got all the knowledge of what they've agreed to. Like that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so it's like it's almost like pre-planned, kind of almost like pre-planned before, or like we kind of know it's going to happen beforehand, and there's
Oh,
like
walking in, really? You
yeah,
sort
it's
of know
funny,
you're going to be a walk-in,
you
or
know,
that you're
yeah.
going to leave the body?
Yeah, and what he's making it like an what do you call the and I can't quite get the word from him. When you're the star in a play and you have the person.
Oh, understudy.
Yes.
Oh, so you have an
Yes.
understudy.
Yes.
All right. So,
He
so
said
you
you could
might
do
say,
anything like
"Oh,
that.
I'm going into a life that may be a little bit too much. I'm going to give it a whirl, but understudy, you stay in the wing of the stage just
Yep.
in case." So what do they do? It's like, hey,
Yep.
when I
Nope.
told you you're going to have to be an understudy, you might have to fill in
Yeah.
for me. Well, I'm ready for you to do that. How does
Yeah.
that happen?
It's just he says it's just
A subconscious thing, or
yeah, it's like through thought that it happened.
okay, all right, oh, cool.
Like
Uh,
telepathy.
Oh, okay. My question is about heaven. When we cross over, how does our family relationships change? My brother and father passed over, and in this life, they are my brother and father. Are they still my brother and father when I die? Do we lose the relationship title? Do we still,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yes, yes. It's not the relationships that we have here are different on the other side. We don't need the titles over there. He said we don't need the titles. Because when we get back over there, it's like okay, they were her brother and father in this life and maybe other lives, but then there was also other lives where they were different relationships.
Right.
And when you get back over there and see those same souls, you remember all the relationships and all the lives you've had with that person.
Okay. They're just part of
Okay.
your soul family. So,
Yes.
Eric, I want to be your mom when I cross over, though. Although we've probably been many other had other
Yes.
relationships too.
Yeah. He said when you do, he said you'll see. You'll
Oh, of
see.
course. Of
Yeah,
course.
you'll understand.
All right. And she or he goes on, do we still love each other because as souls we are loved, or is it the love from the family bond?
Oh, it's just it's the love from the other side. It,
Okay.
but he says there are souls that your soul's family. It's not that you love the other souls less. You just know these souls better.
Okay. Uh, can we choose to stay around our family that's on Earth
Oh
before we cross over, or can we cross over and then kind of go back intermittently to check on our family and be with them?
yeah, and I mean, if you chose to stay around your family, that's more of an earthbound haunting type of a
Yeah, that's like a
situation.
ghost, like a ghost.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that he said, realistically that doesn't happen as often as, people just crossing over. But yeah, once you get over there, then you can see your family, you can see what they're doing, you can come around them. But he said, just because you come around doesn't mean they'll know you're around.
Oh,
And
yeah, of course.
that's human, that's a human thing.
Yeah. True. Can spirits of our loved ones see us wherever they are, or only if they are in our surroundings? Well, I know that they can see us wherever they are,
Yeah,
right?
wherever. Yes. Yes.
Okay. When we die, who comes and takes us to heaven? Okay, that's prearranged. We talked about that.
Yep.
Are there different levels of heaven as described in some religions?
Yeah, it's like how he shows it to me is it's like different soul elevations, but not
Okay.
necessarily a physically different area,
Hmm.
but different soul levels. But like, souls can be on different levels and still be around each other.
What do you mean different levels? Like
Um,
more evolved and
yes,
less?
different
Oh,
levels of
okay.
knowledge, different levels of growth.
Okay. Do they?
Yes.
But they don't segregate from each other, right?
No.
Like, okay.
No.
Like this is the blue zone where, and this is
Right.
the red. Okay.
Yeah, because well, he said because we need to still all learn from each other no matter what level we're at.
Yeah. Of course. Okay. And there's no better or worse, too. No hierarchy like that, right?
No, no, it's just growth. It's about growth.
Okay.
But yeah, no hierarchy.
All right. Do we live in houses in heaven? From what I understand, like Eric did, he wanted to hang on to part of his human life, so he
Yes.
manifested the house. So you can do that, right?
Yes, you absolutely.
When we get to heaven, and I think we answered this, do we remember all our past lives and probably our future ones too?
Yes.
Okay. Do we, and we could tap into anything that we want to know, right? We just have to be
Yes.
aware that that knowledge is out there for us to
Yes.
download it. Okay.
Yeah, and so what he wants to be clear on this. You can, and you can tap into all kinds of circumstances and situations. But he says you still, like, just because you see something, if you haven't had that experience in the physical body, it's like you can see it like it plays on a movie, but it's something that you might choose to come in and experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just because you can tap into all of it doesn't actually mean that your soul has that knowledge and that growth.
Okay. All right. Is heaven different for everyone who crosses over?
No, it's not different for everybody because of the because it's love, because of the immense amount of love. So that is the same for everybody. But it's like if you wanted your surroundings to look a certain way and the soul next to you wanted it different, it can be,
Oh,
it
yeah.
can
It
be.
depends on what you manifest. And you
Yes,
can co-manifest like a beach,
yes,
go surfing, etc.
yes.
Does everybody meet God, including the other life forms?
um yeah, it's like God is just like, it's like almost like you don't sit down and have a face to face, a one-on-one with God necessarily. It's like all around. Like
Okay.
that's like Eric's saying, that's like what the love is.
Oh, okay. But you
um
can probably have a one-on-one,
yeah,
right?
yeah, but you don't necessarily sit and have a one-on-one, like, as part of your immediate crossing.
Okay.
But it's like you just know that he's there,
Yeah.
that he's there, and that he sees you, and that he loves you, and that he's, you know protecting you.
But if you want to say, hey, can we meet at the
Yeah.
Starbucks in the corner, have a coffee?
Yeah.
I got it. Come to Jesus talk for you.
Yeah.
All right. My question for Eric is about sacred contracts. If a contract is decided before we come into this world, do we meet back with those people, energy souls, after this life to discuss the event?
Yeah, absolutely. But it depends. It would happen at different times because you don't cross all at the same time. But yes, you do. You
Yeah.
do get to meet back up and say, okay, remember this situation? And he's saying you get to actually go back to very specific situations and see what it was you learned there, and what maybe you could have learned there that you didn't quite learn there. Yeah, he said it's like a play by play.
Okay. So when I cross over, I'll probably have a little, well, come to Jesus meeting with my parents. I'll tell you that. We'll probably discuss a lot.
Yes.
So that's an example. All right.
Yes.
And probably these people are in multiple lifetimes with us also.
Absolutely.
All right. You've interviewed several who have said they are currently reincarnated, yet that reincarnated soul has a different personality. And when they go home, their personality will still exist. How do we have one soul but so many personalities? And how do we keep our personality?
Okay. Well, it's just it's from lifetime to lifetime. But what happens is that sometimes the souls who come to mediums will keep the personality they had in that most recent lifetime because it's a way to identify themselves.
Oh, yeah. So I recognize you as Eric.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his personality might have a bunch of different aspects that he didn't have here, but
Hmm.
it says it doesn't make sense to come with those because
Yeah.
people wouldn't be able to identify me by those personality traits. So I stick to the ones
Yeah.
that and so he's like, if somebody had loved ones who were here from two lifetimes, who
Hmm.
were both still here, they could appear differently. um
Oh,
to
okay.
to to that family they would appear with the personality they had in that lifetime, and to this family they would appear with the personality they had in that lifetime.
Ah, I see. That's interesting. Okay. Um, and our higher self is in heaven, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
are all our other, so, okay. And it can adopt the personality, the various personalities of different lives, past, present, and future.
Yeah, and he is saying that connects to the Akashic records.
What do you mean?
So the Akashic records are the records of everything past, present, future.
Mm.
So the higher self is like more connected to the Akashic records, is what he's saying.
Oh, okay.
And
Connected in what way?
just like the knowledge,
Oh,
and
okay.
like our higher self stays there, and the Akashic records stay there.
Oh, I
And
see.
what he's saying is that there's a very close connection between our higher selves and the Akashic records.
I see.
And he
Okay.
did just actually say that our higher selves, this is pretty interesting, um, knows more than we do. Our higher self
Okay.
knows more than
Oh,
we
yeah.
do.
Yeah. Good. All right, my question. Can a normal spirit have a relationship with an angel, or do we stick to our own kind? Like Erik has a girlfriend, but
Oh,
could he date an angel if
I
he had a strong connection with one?
I lost you.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Uh, no, yeah, I just missed the question. I think what you said
Okay.
is, can our soul have a
No.
relationship with an
Yeah.
angel?
Can a normal spirit have a relationship with an angel, or do they stick to their own kind? Like Erik has a girlfriend, but could he date an angel if he had a strong connection with one?
He's saying no because the angels are different beings. They're different beings. So our souls kind of date amongst our souls, whether we were on Earth or another planet. He said it doesn't matter. The souls are the same. The angel is a different being,
Okay.
and it's almost as if like our souls still need that physical
Yeah.
uh, contact and the
Yeah.
physical connection and that kind of thing. And he says angels, it's not quite the same for them.
Okay. Do angels date angels? They probably don't have
Yeah,
relations like that.
yeah. He says it's not
Romantic
really like
relations.
that. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
really like that for them.
What are they
Um,
cleaved off from source, closer to
yeah,
source? Or,
it's like he says they're more self-contained. They're more they're
what do
more
you mean?
self-contained. Like they have everything that they need within
Yeah.
their being, and even our souls on the other side still need stuff from other souls.
Okay. All right. Let me see. If spirits can visit Earth, is there a way for humans to visit heaven without dying or having a near-death experience? I mean,
Uh
can you do so with lucid dreaming?
yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Because he says people have seen the Akashic records. So it's like lucid dreaming, astral traveling. He says it's just really hard to maintain that for any length of time. So it feels more like glimpses or moments
Okay.
of when we um, go over there and see stuff. And he's actually saying, that's funny, like when you have dreams of a loved one who's crossed over, he says it's almost like you're in, it's really like you reserved kind of like a conference room on the
Oh,
other
really?
side.
Oh.
And so like he's saying when you have a dream of somebody who's passed, it's like you kind of go into this like holding space
Mm.
and meet. But he said that is on the other side.
Oh, but it is part of heaven, the
Yeah,
afterlife?
yeah,
Oh,
but
cool.
he says you don't actually, sometimes he says sometimes you do feel the love, but sometimes you don't. You just have this communication
Yeah.
with your loved one. And that happens, he said that actually happens on the other side.
Oh, seemed like I had a lucid dream where Erik and I were sitting under a tree. It's really pretty, in a real pretty meadow. So it doesn't have to be a room, right?
No,
It could
no,
just be a
no, it can
space.
look any, yes, it can look
Okay.
any way, but it's kind of like I don't know, I don't know, like a section.
Okay. Cool. All right. So this woman is asking about the crossing over of a pet, and so we answered most of this. But she also wants to know what it's like for them if they've been euthanized and then cross over.
Okay, it's peaceful. It is peaceful. Um, and for this particular, like it's stops the suffering.
Yeah.
It stops the suffering. It's just like going to sleep. It's just like going to sleep, and then they go.
Yeah.
It's not painful. It's not scary. Animals don't have to experience that kind of confusion
Good.
and that
Yeah.
kind of like, hey, what's happening? They just go. They just get to go.
So Erik was, we euthanized Bluebell. Is she grateful for that, or is she pissed off?
No, no, grateful. And for the animals, when it does get to that point where that decision is made, they are always grateful, because the suffering that they were having here is, they're done. They're
Okay.
done with it. You know.
Sure. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say about heaven or crossing over?
He just said it's great here. It's awesome here, but he said it's, you know, it's different. He said it's just different. He says you learn and you grow here, but not like you do down there, not like you do there.
Okay.
Um, and he's just said it's everything he thought it would be and more. But he said, I still have so much to do. He's like, I'm so busy. I have so much to do over here. And it's just beautiful and loving. And even when the crossing is confusing, he said it's okay still. It's still
Were you
okay.
confused, Erik, when you crossed over?
Yeah.
Yeah. For how long? Just.
Hey, so what he's saying is the timing, time is different there, but he said for you here, it would have been the equivalent about 2 weeks, but he said that
Okay.
feels like nothing over here.
Oh yeah.
That
Okay.
feels like nothing, but it was a couple weeks.
Okay. Um, what else? I was going to ask. Oh, is there anything you miss about being here?
Yeah, and it's interesting. He does miss the intensity of all the emotions,
Mm, okay.
because he says you don't get to have that over here.
Oh yeah.
So, the anger, the fear, that kind of stuff. And, he says some people fear, it's like exciting.
Mm,
And so fear, it increases the adrenaline and that. So he says, you don't really get to have all that over here. So he's like, I do kind of miss the roller coaster
oh,
of what it's like there.
oh my God. Do you miss
Yes.
the tangible, the physical, the hugs?
Yeah. Yes. And see, it's different because he said, I can still come and hug you.
Oh yeah, but it
I
feels
can.
different, right?
It does.
Yeah.
He said, but I can still come and hug you. So he said, for us over here, that is a little bit different because we do still get quite a bit of that.
Yeah. Well, I feel it when you do. So
Yeah.
after this,
Yeah, but
come give mama a hug
absolutely.
and taste the
Absolutely.
taste of pizza on the feeling of pizza on your tongue.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
food is a bit, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's different.
All right. Well, one last thing. You say it's so wonderful over there. So what would you say to people who say, well, then why shouldn't I just go over there?
Well, because number one, eventually he said you'll be here anyways.
Mm,
And you've come here to do something. And
mm.
if you decide not to finish it, well, then you get back over here, realize in your life review that you didn't do what you had come to do. And so then you're going to come back to try to do it again. So it's like you might as well just keep going this time and do what you came to do.
Are people, when they do cross over prematurely, are they disappointed? That,
It's,
I was wasted. I wasted a life.
well, it's no, because he says no, there's still a lesson to learn there. There's still knowledge to gain there. But it's like, if you decide you have to come back and learn it again, well, if you've made it 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, and then you get over there and say, well, okay, I'm going to go and try that again, well, then you have to have all those experiences again that you've
Oh,
already had to learn
yeah.
the lesson that you were trying to learn.
Oh,
So he said, especially, with suicide and a free will decision, he said it really just isn't worth it.
yeah.
It's just not worth it, because then you get back over here, realize that this is where you're going to be eventually anyways.
Mm,
And he says a lot of times you decide to go back in with a very similar lesson.
yeah. Oh, that's awful. So you have to go through it again.
Yes.
Um, and also, you probably are aware of how you screwed up other people's life plan too. Like maybe you were supposed to give birth to a daughter who was going to find a cure for
Yes.
diabetes or something, you know?
Yeah,
So,
because when it's a free will decision, the other people in your life did not choose to learn that lesson. So
yeah,
you do collect some karma. And he says you don't have to come back and do it again and do it similarly, but he says oftentimes you'll choose to
yeah,
because you know that you were trying to learn that and then
yeah,
you left before you did.
yeah. All right. Anything else, Eric? Or Jennifer, if you have any questions, go for
Just
it.
that he loves you. He just loves you.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie. Come give me a hug. And you give Jennifer a hug too.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. And you
Thank
guys don't
you.
forget psychicmediumjenniferdorn.com
Yep.
and check out the archives and um, check out the blog archives. They're awesome. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.